Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving deep into ancient Rome, but maybe not the Rome you first picture. We're looking at a time just before the empire. We're talking about the Roman Republic. The sources we've looked at paint it as, well, chaotic, proud, definitely fragile.
Power was supposed to be shared,
Yeah.
but, the reality was quite different. Not really a democracy for everyone.
No, not at all. The sources describe the poor starving while the rich feasted and political corruption spreading like wildfire.
A real pressure cooker situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And into this storm of ambition and betrayal steps one man who, well, he would rise above them all, Gaius Julius Caesar.
Right. And our mission today really is to unpack how Caesar, his actions, his legacy became the turning point, how he essentially brought about the end of the Republic and paved the way for the empire. We're drawing heavily from Julius Caesar, architect of empire and of republic, which does a great job laying out this whole period.
Okay, so the sources say Caesar wasn't born a king, but he was definitely born with ambition. What else did he have? What made him so good at, winning people over? In the Senate or on the battlefield?
Well, that's key. The accounts really stress his dual nature. He had the mind of a politician, sharp and calculating, but also the heart of a warrior. It wasn't just ambition, it was charm, persuasion. He climbed the ranks using, bold speeches and sheer military genius.
But he didn't do it alone, did he? There was this alliance.
Yes, the first triumvirate. It wasn't like an official government thing. It was this secret alliance, really. A pact between him, Crassus, who was incredibly wealthy, and Pompey the Great, the famous general. They basically ruled Rome behind the scenes for a while, manipulated politics.
Okay, so they're pulling the strings in Rome, but then Caesar does something pretty bold. He leaves, he heads off to Gaul, modern-day France.
Yeah, while his allies stayed back.
And this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Absolutely. This is huge. He spends nearly a decade there fighting these brutal and quite brilliant military campaigns. The sources detail his tactics, fighting tribe after tribe, crossing rivers no one thought possible, building that amazing bridge over the Rhine.
In just days, wasn't it?
Incredible feat, yeah, and crushing enemies with just astonishing speed and strategy. His soldiers, they absolutely worshipped him, his enemies. Terrified.
So as his victories pile up in Gaul.
So does his power. His influence back in Rome just skyrockets.
But things back in Rome don't stay static. Crassus dies.
Right, the money guy is gone.
And Pompey, his other ally, actually turns on him, becomes a rival. And the Senate.
Oh, the Senate is watching all this from afar, and they are getting scared. Jealous, too. His power is becoming immense, eclipsing theirs.
So they order him back, but crucially without his army.
Yeah, which everyone, including Caesar, saw as a clear trap.
So what was he supposed to do? Was there any other option?
It really doesn't seem like it, based on the accounts. If he went back alone, they'd strip him of everything. Power, honor, maybe even his life. It was a corner. So 49 BC, he makes the decision. He leads his legion across the Rubicon River.
Which was the boundary, right? The legal edge of his authority.
Exactly. Crossing it with an army was illegal, an act of insurrection. And that's when he supposedly says, Alea iacta est.
The die is cast.
No turning back. He's just declared war on the Roman Republic, on Pompey, on the Senate, everything.
And just like that, civil war. Pompey flees Rome.
Yep, and Caesar's legions march across Italy, then Greece, chasing Pompey, then into Egypt, North Africa. It becomes a world war, almost.
And in Egypt.
He finally catches up, only to find Pompey's already been murdered. By the Egyptians, actually. A rather grim end to that rivalry.
And it's there he meets Cleopatra, isn't it?
It is, the legendary queen. They form this alliance. It's political, yes, but also famously romantic. It helps secure his position there. But he doesn't stay long. He needs to get back to Rome.
Right. He returns as the uncontested victor. The Republic is basically his. And he's named dictator for life. That title, dictator for life. That must have sent shockwaves. Roman dictators were temporary, weren't they, for emergencies?
Precisely. That was the whole point of them, short term, maybe 6 months max, to handle a crisis. Naming someone dictator for life, that was completely against Roman tradition, against their deep-seated fear of kings. It basically signaled the end of the old system. He immediately starts pushing reforms, though.
Like what?
Giving land to his veterans, canceling some debts, fixing the calendar, the Julian calendar, which, we still largely use today.
So the common people.
The people loved him, generally speaking. According to the sources, he seemed to be looking out for them. The Senate, the old aristocracy.
Not so much.
Not so much, as putting it mildly. They saw him becoming too powerful. He acted like a king, dressed like one sometimes, spoke like one. And Rome wasn't supposed to have kings anymore.
So beyond just the king thing, were there other worries about how he was actually running things?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just appearances. This disregard for the Senate's traditional authority, his consolidation of power in his own hands. It fundamentally challenged the Republic's core values. Many felt he was destroying what Rome stood for.
So the conspiracy starts.
Yes. Senators whispering in the shadows, plotting in silence. And the real kicker, the tragedy of it, is that his close friend Brutus was among them.
Which brings us to that infamous date, March 15th, 44 BC, the Ides of March.
The day itself. Caesar walks into the Senate meeting. The sources say he was warned, but he went anyway. Unaware, or maybe just dismissing the danger, unaware that daggers were hidden under the robes of men he knew, men he called friends.
And then
They surround him, strike him one by one. The accounts are brutal. And then the legendary moment, he sees Brutus, his friend, with a dagger raised, and he supposedly utters, "Et tu, Brute."
you too, Brutus.
Yeah, as if the betrayal more than the blades was the final blow. And with that, he falls. The man who conquered Gaul, defied the Senate, charmed Cleopatra, dead on the Senate floor.
But the great irony, as the sources point out, is that killing Caesar didn't save the Republic.
Not at all. Quite the opposite, in fact. It just unleashed more chaos, more civil wars. His assassins thought they were heroes restoring liberty.
And just tore Rome apart again.
Exactly. And out of that chaos emerges Caesar's adopted son, Octavian. He's ruthless, brilliant in his own right. He hunts down the conspirators, crushes them, consolidates all the power for himself, and then he takes a new name, Augustus.
Rome's first emperor.
Rome's first emperor. And the Republic, it's well and truly over, finished. Caesar's death, meant to save it, actually sealed its fate and ushered in the empire.
So looking back, Julius Caesar, he didn't just change history, he literally ended an age.
He really did. And his name, Caesar, it became more than a name. It became a title. It lived on for centuries. It's the root for Kaiser in German, Tsar in Russian. That's incredible reach. He was, without a doubt, the turning point in Rome's story. His life, his death. It changed everything.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Over 2,000 years later, we still remember that day, the Ides of March. Not just for the betrayal, which was shocking enough, but for the empire that was, in a way, born from his ashes.
So maybe something for you to think about. If we consider how the death of this one man, Caesar, which was intended to preserve the Republic, actually ended up cementing the path to an empire, what does that tell us? What does it tell us about how unpredictable history's turning points can be? And how the actions of just one individual can echo down through millennia in ways no one at the time could possibly have foreseen?